Alright, continuing. Okay, so this guy, this creepoid, is arguing that sufficient judicial process took place on the subject of cigarette taxation and discrimination under the United States Constitution. So the case was argued in a tax court in New Jersey. The person arguing the case was not allowed to argue constitutional issues in the case, the federal Constitution. Specific laws being applied couldn't be referenced in the arguments, and yet this should be legal precedent demonstrating how it's been proven. Now, in this part, he's reading the judge's decision. Now, the judge has basically gone out and had his staff quote mine federal law for something, even and state law, for something, saying, hey, you can discriminatorily tax. And he hasn't found anything, so he's gone back to 1940 and 1959 cases. And now this guy's reading, so this is the judge's best effort at finding an excuse for discriminatory tax. None of this case law, if you read the whole cases on any of these cases cited, would those courts in any way endorse discriminatory, overtly discriminatory disproportion in taxation. I don't think they would even justify taxes or levies in excess of something like 10% on something. No way they would justify taxing an item hundreds of times the value of the item. That would, to those courts, that would be preposterously lunatic behavior. So anyway, this is what the court's best argument is, and it's a great argument in my defense. The court basically are saying, yes, in no way can you avoid 14th Amendment standards in applying taxes. Yes, of course the 14th Amendment applies. The court says it. So I'm going to play this part again, this one little sentence. This is just so fucking obvious.
Of course, the states in their exercise of the taxing power are subject to the requirements of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, but that...
Yeah, of course they are. So of course, yes, of course there's the standard. You can't discriminate unless you have cause to discriminate. Period. Now, what is the cause for the discrimination? Okay, it has to be a legitimate one. It can't be because we're the majority and they're a minority. That's not a legitimate cause under the United States Constitution unless you're this guy. This guy thinks so. So if you hate gays, fucking go for it, buddy. Okay? It's your right to hate them, and it's your right to impose your will on them. If you're a Christian and you hate motherfucking cunt, heathen atheists and their goddamn slovenly, moronic behavior, then go ahead, persecute the fuck out of them, because this guy says that's the way you should behave. Yes, you're right. There's no 14th Amendment, because we apply the 14th Amendment and somehow the 14th Amendment can't catch 800%, 30%. Funny.
Clause imposes no iron rule of equality, prohibiting the flexibility and variety that are appropriate to reasonable schemes of state taxation. The state may impose...
Again, reasonable schemes, so when they, if you read the whole court case, it would be clear. These court cases were about, 50-cent differences in taxation. Companies would sue and they'd end up in the Supreme Court over 50% differences. Like one guy is selling, one part of the car, another guy is selling another part of the car, and there's a tax put on the machine process or some other thing, and one company says, hey, that's not fair. You're taxing me 50 cents, we taxing him 30 cents?
There's different specific taxes on different trades and professions, and vary the rate of excise on various products. It is not required to resort to close distinctions or maintain a precise scientific uniformity.
Again, precise scientific uniformity. How can you miss that that's not what's being argued here? It's not being argued that this law lacks precise scientific uniformity. Quite obviously. I'm not arguing that this tax misses because it's not precisely scientifically uniform. It misses because it's overtly and preposterously aggressively discriminatory.
The composition, use, or value. And then on page 528, quote, it has long been settled that a classification through though discriminatory, is not arbitrary or violative of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment if any state of facts reasonably can be conceived that would sustain it.
There you go. A state of facts that can be reasonably conceived that would sustain it. So the argument I'm making to you is give me those facts. Give me the facts for alcohol that explains how alcohol is not as bad as cigarettes, that it's not as deserving as cigarettes for taxation, that it isn't as big a social cost or socially damaging or socially destructive or on any class, that it's more addictive than cigarettes or more. Give me some reason why alcohol shouldn't be taxed at the same level as cigarettes. That's what the fucking United States Supreme Court was demanding, is that you had to have some reasonable set of facts, some set of facts that could be reasonably observed to conclude there should be a distinction. I'm saying you have no reasonable set of facts. If you don't provide those reasonable set of facts, you motherfucking cunt, then you're obviously being just a lying, manipulative propagandist in defense of a fucking corrupt and unjust government. You, sir, suck. You're a fucking traitor. You fucking goddamn, I can't wait for the zombie war. Gonna be a lot of non-zombies going down.
Leanhausen versus Lakeshore Auto Parts, decided by the court in 1973. The court states at page 359, quote,
Auto parts, right? So again, these are cases that went to court based on tiny, tiny, tiny differentials in taxation.
The Equal Protection Clause does not mean a state may not draw lines that treat one class of individuals or entities different from the other, differently from others. When the test from the others, the test is whether the difference is an invidious discrimination where taxation is concerned. No specific federal right apart from equal protection is imperiled. The states have large leeway in making class.
No, invidious. These are the words. I mean, this is quite obviously invidious. It is quite obviously just fucking minority bigotry. It's just a fucking bigot. Cigarette smokers suck. They don't have any congressmen to stop us. They don't have any political power because they're not segregated in some state where they actually get a congressman. So yeah, let's just fuck them over. That's what you're fucking defending, all you fucking cunts. Every one of you fucking cunts is defending that as the United States Constitution. That's how the courts should now interpret the United States Constitution. I mean, it's right there in the judge's own argument, in his own defense. It's right there in the words. That's the best quote he could find. And it's a quote that is a decisive slam fucking dunk for my argument.
And drawing lines in which their judgments produce reasonable letters of taxation. Letters versus Matlock 499 U.S. 539, decided in 1991. The court pointed out at page 457 that, quote, inherent in the power to tax is the power to discriminate in taxation. Legislatures have especially broad latitude in creating classifications and distinctions in tax statutes. Those are the federal cases. In New Jersey, the constitutional basis...
yeah, well, they didn't read any of that last case, did they? No, that's right. You know, we read one sentence out of that case because there's no way that wasn't recontextualized by the court in stating that these cases still are required to meet this 14th Amendment standard, and if there is any discrimination, it must be justified reasonably.
Taxation have been discussed in... I'm sorry, his text-to-speech stuff is horrible here. I'm sorry, Greenberg versus...
Yeah, look, it's not text-to-speech, but whatever. Yeah, okay, I had to transcribe, oral argument. He read the damn thing. He didn't provide me a hard copy of his written decision. So, yeah, I had to transcribe his oral reading of it. And I did some of that through... me reading, well, I'm not going to go through the explanation, but, I mean, fuck you. You're going to complain.
Kimmelman, 99, New Jersey, where the court stated at page 563, quote, insofar as most rights are concerned, a state statute does not violate substantive due process if the statute reasonably relates to a legitimate legislative purpose, does not arbitrarily or discriminatory. Briefly stated, if the statute is supported by conceivable rational basis, it will withstand substantive due process attack.
Right. So what's the reasonable basis? Again, you just keep evading Well, you're not evading, but you know what I'm saying. You haven't given me, how could I argue that your reasonable basis is fallacious when I haven't heard any reasonable basis? No one's given me the reasonable basis to easily shoot the fuck down, okay? It's not even conceivable. I can't conceive of the reasonable basis. I can't make one up for you. So give me your reasonable basis and then I'll shoot it the fuck down. It doesn't fucking exist. There is no reasonable basis. There's just your fucking bigotry.
Dealing with equal protection, the appellate division in Snyder versus the City of East Orange, 196 New Jersey Supreme Court, decided in 1984, stated on page 594, equal protection, quote, equal protection that all persons must be treated identically, but rather that similar people...
Yeah, right. So they just said it again. So this is the best he can do. Well, it doesn't say they have to be identical, but clearly it does say they can't be deliberately discriminated against. So, fuck you. You just lost the argument decisively. Slam dunk. You heard the fucking words. That's the best argument the judge could find.
Will be dealt with in a similar manner, and that people of different circumstances will not be treated as if they were the same, and unless legislation creates inherently suspect...
So again, just read this.
Briefly stated, if a statute is supported by conceivable rational basis, it will withstand substantive due process attack. In dealing with equal protection, the appellate division in Snyder versus the City of East Orange, 196 New Jersey Supreme Court, decided in 1984, stated on page 594, equal protection, quote, equal protection that all persons must be treated identically, but rather that similar people be dealt with in a similar manner, and that people...
There you go. So the argument is right there. It's the New Jersey State Supreme Court, okay? Similarly situated vice has to be treated the same. You can't treat it disproportionately, preposterously disproportionately. It's right there in the frickin' goddamn Supreme Court's words. This is the judge's own argument, and it fails dismally to explain how this isn't a fucking discriminatory treatment. In the judge's decision, he doesn't explain how he can make that quote from the Supreme Court fit his decision. There's no fit. There's no connection whatsoever. He just fucking ignored what that court just said.
People of different circumstances will not be treated as if they were the same, and unless legislation creates inherently suspect classification, a legislative classification will be presumed valid even if it has the effect of treating some differently from others, so long as it bears some rational relationship to a permissible state interest. It must be noted that in classifying subjects for different treatment, even in the field of taxation, the legislature possesses the greatest freedom in classification.
Yeah, again, they have no right to classify something as a N-word. They have no right to just classify something and just say, we don't like cigarette smokers, so fuck them. That's not what the 14th Amendment says.
It is in the context of those standards, or that standard for constitutional challenges, that I will consider the various grounds for appeal raised by Mr. Mosjoen.
Okay, this part's just got to be hilarious, because there's no fucking way he's going to do that. I don't remember what he said, but I remember he didn't say anything.
One challenge, as I've indicated, is to the constitutionality of the Cigarette Tax Act. The constitutionality of that tax...
Okay, so here again, he's arguing the constitutionality of the Cigarette Tax Act. I never challenged the constitutionality of taxing cigarettes. It's nowhere in my argument anywhere. The argument is all about 14th Amendment protections. It's all about equal protection. It's all about the excessiveness of the tax. That's my entire argument. My argument has nothing to do with whether or not the state can tax cigarettes. It's not in my argument. It's not a claim I'm making. So again, this guy thinks this is how a judge should take, this is a valid way to deal with the argument I made, is to completely ignore the argument I made and straw man the fuck out of me. He just defended judicial straw manning. A huge, giant judicial straw man. And this fucker just defended that as American justice.
Tax was challenged in Lane Distributors versus Tilton, 7 New Jersey 349, a decision by the New Jersey Supreme Court in 1951.
Let's go.
The court held that the act was not an undue restraint on interstate commerce, was not special legislation, stating, quote, this is general legislation, though directed to the...
All right, well, this part, there's no point in reading all this, right? I mean, Okay, we'll break it in pieces. Just understand. Now the judge is going to defend why it's illegal to tax cigarettes. So he's going to explain how it doesn't bother interstate commerce and doesn't do this, doesn't do that. Okay, to tax things. Okay, so the court, this is just defending the tea tax. This is just going back to the origins of mankind, essentially, and just saying it's legal to tax. Okay, that wasn't anything in my argument. My argument was specific, pointed, direct. This is just straw man, useless crap. He's just telling me that tomatoes are a fruit and not a vegetable, or some kind of crap like that. And I'm like, who the fuck cares? I'm talking about somebody throwing a tomato, you stupid retard. I don't care whether it's a fruit or a vegetable. I didn't argue fruit and vegetables. I'm arguing that the motherfucker threw the tomato through my fucking window. You can get this, can't you? You can't really not get this. Can you not get this? Man, you people are dumb. Anyway. Whatever. God, I hate these people. Alright, so he's just read all this crap that basically is an argument that it's been found by the courts that it's legal to tax items. That's all these are judges arguing. And so here's the judge's statement verifying that that New Jersey's allowed to tax cigarettes. And that's how he dealt with my argument.
Therefore, I conclude that the Cigarette Tax Act is constitutional not only under the general standards I've set forth, but also under the specific ruling with respect to that act as set forth in Lane Distributors versus Tilton.
Okay, so there's not going to be any reference to the disproportionate taxation, no reference to the discrimination claim. There's just going to be a statement that he thinks it's okay to tax cigarettes. Period.
Recognize that that decision does not deal with the invasion of privacy that Mr. Mosier asserts, and I will discuss that matter in a few minutes.
I understand. I didn't get to argue that. That was a side issue anyway, and that was the minor issue, was the invasion of privacy, because that has to do with the Jenkins Act. And I could only argue the side of the Jenkins Act, which had to do with the state getting a notification of my information, so I couldn't even argue the full impact of the Jenkins Act. The origins of the Jenkins Act are the modification of the Jenkins Act. So the fact that I couldn't argue any of that stuff really makes this, again, another straw man argument. The judge is going to make my argument for me because he didn't let me make it.
As to the Jenkins Act, the purpose of the court was...
Okay, so there you go. So that was all the judge said on the subject of unequal taxation. So he read all that case law, talking about discrimination, talking about iron, talking about precisely uniform, all that crap, and where was his explanation of the legitimate reason for taxing cigarettes disproportionately that I failed to tear down? Where's the rational basis for the discrimination that I failed to tear down? Where did he hold up the reason why cigarette taxes can be taxed so disproportionately, and this is the reason? He didn't give any such reason. He didn't answer my claim at all, and this is what this fucking piece of motherfucking shit thinks is a valid court decision. A court decision that should be legal precedent in the state of New Jersey. So now everybody who goes in to oppose a tax is stuck with this as a decision. This is the argument. You want to claim cruel and unusual punishment? The court will just say, we can punish prisoners. That will be the answer to any claim of anybody who claims that claim, is that we can tax. Period. We don't even want to hear the word discrimination. We don't even know what the word discrimination means. We'll talk about the 14th Amendment, but we won't give it any balls whatsoever. It will mean absolutely nothing because we will not demonstrate how this is consistent with the 14th Amendment. Yeah, that's it. That's justice in fucking this asshole's America. That's what this fucking asshole thinks America should be. Frankly, I think the Soviet Union could have done better than that 50 years ago. When they had fucking gulags, they got better trials than this shit. Alright, here we're back. Okay, so this part's on the sales tax. I'll just get back to the Jenkins Act real quick. Okay, so he read the part about the Jenkins Act. So the judge basically said Jenkins Act is valid. All the case law was from 1951. So I think you can get the idea that in 1951 people weren't making a whole lot of credit card purchases of out-of-state cigarettes by mail. That the Jenkins Act had nothing to do with regular consumers. It had everything to do with people bringing in bulk cigarettes from other states. And that's what the Jenkins Act covered. It had nothing to do with regular consumers. And now they just decided to reinterpret the law and apply it to consumers, and that's the bullshit here.
And the Jenkins Act constitutes a constitutionally illegal violation of protected private property.
I want to get to this other part.
I have already addressed that argument, and we'll address the invasion of privacy aspect of that argument. He also argues that, quote, the state is dishonestly and therefore illegally using the mask of a broad sales tax to do nothing more than establish another cigarette tax, and that is not.
Yeah, okay, so I made this argument about the sales tax and the fact that, okay, then not only did they exempt it in the state, change the tax code to cover cigarettes taxes, but the idea also of the internet, the fact that there is this exemption from sales tax for every other item, and then they exempted cigarettes from that exemption, right? So, again, a clear discrimination. Why are cigarettes the only thing that still has to pay sales taxes when there's a blanket internet-free zone? And that will not be addressed. I make the accusation, it's just not an addressed accusation.
Not been sufficiently addressed by the state. He notes that, quote, the state has not provided a complete listing of what was exempted from the Sales Tax Act, and any evidence mitigating claim that the exemptions are in fact merely convenient indulgences to politically powerful special and majority and interests, and
Right. So this is the other catch, right? So they have these exemptions in the tax code. See, I'm since I'm not exempt, since I'm cut off, on top of that, they have other things they put into the tax code where they say these items are exempt from sales tax. I was surprised to know that. And then they didn't even have a complete listing on the government website. So I'm basically asking for discovery because I can't get the information anywhere. But I would like to know, why are yachts exempt from sales tax? Why is that? That seems awful curious. But that's your government at work.
To the violation of due process and equal protection. There is no doubt about the constitutionality of the Sales and Use Tax Act that Mr. Mosier cites having no bearing.
So again, he's just changing the argument. So you make the argument that the law is being discriminatorily applied, and he's going to argue the straw man, which is the law can be the law. I mean, this just doesn't, there's no point, right? I mean, he's arguing whether or not it's legal to tax, and I'm arguing you can't do this discriminating taxing thing. So he's not dealing with any of the discrimination issues and the judge is just saying, we can tax. For sure, that's no problem, we can tax.
He doesn't know which version of cites to use, upon the validity of that act or upon the tax liability, which is the subject of this appeal. To the right of privacy, this is a right that has been recognized under federal and state constitutions. The federal
I don't even think I'll bother with this part, so I think we'll skip over this one. I mean, it's an important issue, but compared to all the other issues, this was the nothing issue in the case. This was the least of my concerns, is the fact that it's a violation of my privacy, and the judge wasted a big pile of time on a minor argument in my case. All right, just ignore the fundamental issue is the discrimination issue and the excessive taxation argument. That's the case in bulk, and he completely washed right over that, and now he's going to waste time talking about my privacy interests, which he didn't let me argue anyway from the federal law. So what's the fucking point? You didn't let me make the argument, so why is he even arguing something he wouldn't let me argue? Yeah, you're America. Fucking God. Jesus, there's nothing you can say to this shit. Fuck you, Matt. Alright, I will just make a little bit in here. This is kind of funny. So he's reading all this, the judge's justification for the invasion of privacy, the argument he didn't even allow me to make, that he's making for me and countering for me. And so he's using all this case law regarding Megan's Law, which was a law passed in New Jersey that allowed people to know that a pedophile lived on their street, right? So this is a law that said, okay, there is no right to privacy, in this circumstance, so we can register these people and we can know where they live, and then we can, throw rocks in through their windows and stuff. Okay, so the court in this decision, he's basically comparing somehow cigarette smokers to known convicted child molesters. So now cigarette smokers have the same status under the law by this judge's standard as convicted child molesters. He's using a law that was used to violate the privacy rights of child molesters to justify violating the privacy interests of cigarette smokers. So cigarette smokers are being equated with convicted child molesters. That's what you're defending. You're not only defending Megan's Law, which is pretty bad law, but you're also defending comparing friggin' cigarette smokers with convicted child molesters. God, you suck. God, fuck you, Matt.
Here, plaintiff asserts a right to privacy. The advertisements to which Mr. Mosher responded indicated indeed proclaimed that the sale of cigarettes were, quote, tax-free. That, however, does not excuse him from being chargeable with the knowledge that New Jersey imposes taxes on the sales of cigarettes, and that notwithstanding the advertisements that tax could be collected in this state, the advertisements in themselves appear to be misleading, but that is a subject matter of a different claim and not before this court.
Says he, right? I mean, I presented the advertisements as deception sanctioned by the state. The state regulates what advertisers are allowed to say in advertisements. They obviously aren't regulating these illegal advertisements in their state, so therefore aren't they violating the law to violate the law? So that's a fundamental claim in the case, and the judge just said, no, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to deal with that.
My concern is simply with whether there is a tax liability and whether it has been paid, or whether there are any bases for not enforcing it against Mr. Mosher. The misleading statements in the advertisements which he has provided in his response to the motion are not, in my view, a basis for avoiding tax liability. Here, the only impact of the disclosure required by the Jenkins bill is to reveal the plaintiff is a smoker, the brand
wait for it. This gets good.
He buys, I guess, the amounts of his purchases, and in this case, the price paid was disclosed applying the standards articulated in Doe versus Porridge.
Listen.
I find there is no significant potential for harm in any subsequent non-consensual disclosure.
There we go. There we go. So there's no harm in non-consensual disclosure. So the judge has just endorsed not letting the person know when you purchase the cigarettes, or not knowing when you do something that somebody else is doing something else. So it's essentially like just saying that Google doesn't have to disclose to you if it monitors your browser and it does steal some of your passwords. It wouldn't have to disclose that to you. That would be okay. It doesn't have to be a consensual theft of your private information. They can just take it if they want it. That's what he's endorsing now. Okay, non-consensual. It's right there in the words. So you don't think I'm entitled to be informed. It just should take place. And I shouldn't have a terms of service agreement with a company when I buy something. If they're going to take my private information and use it in some way, they have no obligation for me to consent to that. That's what you're endorsing, you fucking cunt.
Finally, there's an express statutory mandate for disclosure in the Jenkins Act supported by well-articulated public policy, which is set forth and quoted from Lane Distributors versus Tilton. The right of privacy which Mr. Mosher asserts, in my view, is not the type of fundamental right protected by either this federal or state constitutional concept of privacy.
Right, so again, so you should not be secure in what you purchase, and your purchase information is non-consensually thievable by corporations, and they can do whatever they choose with the information. Effectively, that's, as long as the state has an interest in it, as long as the state's getting their cut, that's okay.
Mr. Mosher, on page 9 of his brief, raises a variety of rhetorical questions. I do not believe that they require any additional comment by me.
Okay, there you go. So let's, come on, we got to do that one again, right? We got to do that one again. God damn, I wish I could go back. It's such a long video that it's so hard to go back because, it's...
which is contained in the notification from the Jenkins Act, and that compelling substantial need far outweighs plaintiff's privacy interest.
Now listen to this. Okay, far outweighs my privacy interest. It's funny. It's laughable.
Mr. Mosher, on page 9 of his brief, raises a variety of rhetorical questions. I do not believe that they require any additional comment by me.
There you go. So this is what you get, right? So you write in an argument, and on page 9 I write a whole bunch of more, violations of my rights, more of my complaint. It's my fucking complaint. It's what I'm arguing. I'm allowed to do that. And he just said, Fuck it. I'm not even gonna recite it. I'm not even gonna articulate them. I'm just gonna ignore them. I'm just gonna pretend he didn't make those arguments. And this is what this fuck says I should go. Should go to court and say, you know, that guy, blah, 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 blah. And he should just say, I'm not going to even bother reading that. Fuck that one. Okay, you got something else you want to argue about? You got some other problem? Because I'm not going to pay any fucking attention to that page. Here's your complaint, right? 4 pages? Fuck these 2 pages. I don't even want to hear it. What are you doing in my court with those 2 pages? I don't even want to know about those 2 pages. I only do these 2 pages. You didn't pay enough for 4 pages. You only paid enough for 3 pages. This is justice in America, according to this motherfucking cunt, this fucking Weasley piece of shit. Matt, you should goddamn be trying to run this fucker over, not being friends with him. Fuck you, Matt. God damn.
Of his brief raises a variety of rhetorical questions. I do not believe that they require any additional comment by me.
Okay, well, look, they weren't rhetorical questions, okay? They were direct accusations, you know. So this is just, again, so the judge just wiped out a whole page of my, 2 pages even. Just pushed it right into the garbage can. Just ignored the complaint. Ignored it.
Beyond what I have already set forth based on the analysis I have placed on the record, the defendant's motion for summary judgment will be granted. So he answered all of Gary's constitutional questions. Okay,
so there you go. So every one of these commenters think this is how you answer the constitutional question. I make the accusation as discriminatory tax. I say I will argue, I will defeat any reason provided. If a reason is provided for the discrimination, I will argue that. But there is no reason. There's only one reason for the discrimination. It has to be a majority exploitation, period. I can prove it from the legislature speeches. I provided those arguments in my papers. Where did the judge answer the accusation of excessive taxation? Where is that answered in that decision? It is not answered.
Unlike what Gary claims. 10 minutes left in his video, and we're now at 57 minutes and 10 seconds. So I'm wagering this is another video Gary will never watch.
What? Well, whatever. Yeah, of course I don't want to watch. Why would I? I mean, number one, you could have just picked out those great moments, the great stuff, you know, where the judge actually says something stupid like, okay, you're saying there's cruel and unusual taxation. Well, my answer to that is, we can tax. And you think that should be held up as legal precedent, answering any further claim by anybody who goes into court and say, I'm being taxed discriminatorily, I'm being taxed excessively, the judge should just say, we can tax people. We do it all the time. No problem. yeah. I mean, you people usually really are just scum. So anyway, now he's going to go back and play the summary judgment motion that took place a year before. And why he's going to do that, I don't know. Why he read the decision in the middle of the video, I am completely clueless as to provide an explanation for that. Why argue the recusal motion when we just heard the judge's decision? We just heard the judge in his decision say, I was in error. Okay? We heard him say, the first line in his decision is, I was in error when I said I don't have jurisdiction over constitutional claims. And I will, even though I've closed the case and I prevented the defendant, well, the plaintiff, from arguing the Constitution, I will now make his argument for him and defeat it for him. I mean, you just... So I've already, the recusal motion is now triple endorsed. I mean, he should have recused himself because he's fucking insane. The judge didn't address a single fucking claim in the case. Fuck you, Matt. Alright, yeah, I guess this part was, you know, he just this bunch of, you know, typical ad hominem bullshit, blah, blah, blah. He thinks this judge did exactly what he was supposed to do, blah, 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 blah.
Dude that had any familiarity with the law laughed at you. Okay,
so he says he told some friends of his that are lawyers, okay, so it's always these ambiguous friends. Let's hear one of them. Can they write up a statement? I'll pay them for it, okay, with their bar number. You know, I'd like their bar number to be on it or something, just so we have that. And defending the judge's interpretation of the law in this case. Okay, just any kind of explanation how the judge did address the issue of discrimination in his decision. Just something, and just some explanation of how the judge is allowed to just take a page of my complaint and just throw it in the garbage. I would love to hear the lawyer's analysis. Now, in the past, I did offer $10,000 to any law professor willing to defend what this judge did. Okay, $10,000 to put his reputation on a defense of this judge's, an analysis defending this judge's behavior, and answering my accusations of where the lack of addressing a single item in my complaint exists. The fact that not one single issue in my complaint was addressed by this judge, and that it is a fundamental, critical, reversible error if a judge states he doesn't have jurisdiction over constitutional issues, denies you the right to make the constitutional arguments, and then in his decision addresses the constitutional issues. That can't be defended as any kind of acceptable judicial process. Show me a lawyer or a judge who will defend that, and I will pay them, because they are basically pointing out how they're liars and shysters. It won't happen. It can't happen, because it's preposterous. On its fucking face, through its core, on every single quantum in it, it is preposterous legal process.
Including people I know who are actually lawyers. I sent them a lot of your stuff, and they really, really found it funny.
Prove it. I dare you. I defy you. Prove it. Let them put their reputation on the line. Let me see a lawyer defend a judge saying to somebody they can't argue their constitutional rights in their court. Defend that. Show me one fucking lawyer who will say that's legitimate judicial process. Show me that person. Have the balls to do that, you little fucking weasel. No, you can't do it, because it would be preposterous, and the judge would be making an ass out of himself. The lawyer. Any lawyer who would say a judge can do that would be making an ass out of themselves.
At least one person who actually passed the New Jersey bar, so is a lawyer in New Jersey. Funny that.
Well, again, do they have the balls? How much do they want me to pay them to make their name public? How much do I have? Just give me the price. How much do I have to pay the lawyer to make his name public and for him to make a public video explaining how this was legal process what took place in this courtroom? That this wasn't loaded with 5 million pounds of reversible error. A judge calling the plaintiff about a tax amnesty program and essentially extorting them out of his courtroom. A judge throwing half a complaint in the garbage can. A judge telling somebody they can't argue their constitutional rights in his court. Show me the lawyer who says that is not catastrophically reversible error. Have the balls, no guts, no fucking guts. What's the price tag? I'll pay the price. How much does that lawyer want to put his reputation on the line? To sit there and show his bar, he passed the New Jersey bar exam. Put it on the line. Show me that document and then defend what this judge did, you fucking cunt.
Quote. Actually, I had to say quote. Let's look at this handsome devil read stuff.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Fuck. Senor butt plug. You even look like more of a butt plug now. Yeah. We'll get back to this. I think this will be semi-funny. Come on.
He tells me,
come on, play.
well, Mr. Mosher, you're not saying you didn't buy cigarettes.
Right, because he's saying, well, basically, you bought the cigarettes and you have to pay the tax. I think that's kind of the whole point here, Gary.
Okay, there we go. That's the whole point here, Gary. Right. So again, I go to court claiming cruel and unusual punishment, and the point is we can punish prisoners. So again, you don't even get it. You don't even get it. I'm not allowed to go to a court and claim discrimination, and I'm just going to hear from the court, we can tax. And that's it? That's the only subject I want to know is whether you bought cigarettes. I don't want to hear about this discrimination crap. I don't want to hear it. And you're smiling and saying that's what you should hear, okay? Again, you go into court for discrimination because you're a fucking ugly motherfucker, and the judge should just say, we can think you're ugly and treat you like shit because we feel like it. So fuck off. Yeah, that's what you should get. You should get exactly what you deserve, nothing less. Which means you should be in one of those doggy duty things, like you dig a hole in the ground and you put a plastic thing in and you dump the dog doo in, and it's like a little cesspool. That's where you belong. You belong in the bottom of a little duty hole of dog shit. You piece of fucking crap. You too, Matt. All right, real quickly, you did bring up the common practice to have sales taxes on excise taxes. My point is obviously that if the tax exceeds the value of the product being taxed, that paying sales tax on excise taxes, then in my opinion, it's unconstitutional. It's just a violation. You can't tax taxes. That's just bullshit. It's infinite regression kind of thing.
I think he does understand that, given that, unlike you, he's familiar with the case law.
Right. So now I argue the fact that this is back to the summary the recusal motion, and specifically the argument about bureaucracies being fallible and somebody being able to go to court and say, hey, the bureaucracy made a mistake. Now understand, the page of my complaint the judge threw out, right? The part he just says, I'm not going to deal with those rhetorical questions, those were the itemized description of the bureaucracy's violation of my rights, the waiting 18 months, so the judge didn't address that. The judge didn't address we can wait 10 years to assess a tax. He didn't address that stuff was in the page the judge threw out. So again, how did he address it in his decision? How did he address those issues in his decision? Oh, that's right, he didn't address them in his decision. He didn't address them at all.
Somebody should have a right to say they're wrong.
You do have the right to say they're wrong. You had a court case, and
the judge said, the guy makes some rhetorical questions that I'm not going to deal with. And that's how he dealt with them. So you're saying that's what justice is. You just throw them away. The judge can just throw the complaint away. He can just throw it away. You should get this. This is the kind of justice you should fucking get. I mean, really, if we have the revolution, I hope they play this video at your trial, and everybody gets a good fucking laugh. Yeah, because, man, do you deserve it, buddy? Do you ever deserve it? Hard. Oh, man, this is really just so fucking stupid. Anyway.
Pay to go to court, right? So they're basically saying after you've already paid to get into court, lose the money you paid to get into court on top of everything else. We'll just take that money too.
So Gary, you're mad that you actually have to pay to file for if you want to. All
right. So now he's trying to convert the argument, because I'm complaining that they're basically. So somebody comes to you and says, okay, here's a $500 tax. a $500 liability I have. Now, I have challenged that liability by spending at least $300, okay, in fees and paperwork and mailings, okay? So I've spent at least $300 to fight a $500 tax. And now a judge comes to me and says, well, look, to save 5% on the tax, because we're going to penalize you an extra 5%, if you don't give up now. We're going to add another 5% penalty. On top of all the other crap we do, the interest and all this other shit, we're just going to add another 5% if you don't give up now. Right? So the 5% on $500 is, whatever, $50 or whatever, right? So, I've already spent $300 to fight this tax. So clearly, I'm not here in court because I give a fuck about the money. So this is just pretty stupid, isn't it? To save $50, I should throw out the $300 I've spent to be in court? Does that make any sense to anybody? Should a Harvard graduate be able to say, oh, that doesn't make any fucking sense at all? Yeah, that's right. So quite obviously, his courtesy call was not a courtesy call. His courtesy call did not start with, are you aware of the tax amnesty? No, it started off with, Mr. Mosier, you've made a lot of accusations in your complaint. Well, I don't like accusations. Yeah, that's how it started off, okay? So don't be fucking rewriting this history, you fucking liar. I'm not complaining about paying to get into court. I'm complaining about being extorted out of court by a fucking judge. Cunt. Fuck you, Matt. Alright, this is worth getting into. Alright, Matt, so now you're all going to be on the carpet. Okay? You let this guy talk about your personal life. Come on. Play it.
And at this time, you're still on disabilities, but at this time, you're on disabilities as well. And so basically...
Yeah, I get $600 in Social Security. I paid into Social Security. It's an insurance program. Now, that's none of your fucking business. I don't think it's any of your fucking right to bring it up in this video, you fucking cunt. How do you make your money, you fucking weasel? I'm sure it's lying and cheating. There's going to be no other fucking possible way you make money. Do you blow your father? I hear you like it in the ass.
All the money that you had came from the state of New Jersey and possibly...
Yeah, so you're making that shit up too, right? All the money I have? What do you know about how much I work or what I do? How do you know any of that shit? You don't know any of that shit. This isn't your business, you motherfucking cunt. Fuck you. Fuck all these assholes who think this is your business. You think this is your right. I go to court, defend my rights, and this is what you get to do? You get to make videos about my personal finances? Oh, yeah, that's cool. Fuck you. Fuck all the people defending you. Fuck all of them. You people suck. Fuck you, Matt, you fucking goddamn bum. Alright, quickly. He makes the claim that somehow I thought the judge made up the 5% penalty just for me, that's what I think tax amnesty meant. Complete lie. So now he's talking about discrimination. He says in his previous video somewhere, he pointed out how cigarette smokers don't fit into a class, a protected class. I'm not making the argument that the cigarette smokers are a protected class for the highest scrutiny when it comes to discrimination. That's not the claim being made. I'm saying they fit into the same class as truck drivers, anybody else, in any other legal court case. Okay, in all these Supreme Court cases, it was like truck drivers versus train operators. It was one class, similar situated to another class, and the argument was one class is being discriminated against. It's like there's a famous copyright case, a famous discrimination case based on the fact that the Veterans Organization did volunteer work. So other volunteer work organizations filed a lawsuit because the veterans were getting an advantage. Yeah, so they're similarly situated. They're not protected classes. This isn't about being a protected class for the highest scrutiny. This is just getting 14th Amendment scrutiny. I'm saying I'm entitled to fundamental constitutional rights, not protected rights under new amendments for protected classes. I'm making no argument that my liberty is a protected class liberty. I'm making the argument that it's a protected liberty under the United States Constitution, you motherfucking cunt. Specifically the 14th Amendment. Alright, this is a fuck you, Matt moment coming up. This is really bad.
Taxed out of existence.
Was wrong.
Okay, so he's saying a $3,000 tax on a poor man making $10,000 a year is not a prohibitive tax. Yeah, bullshit. He also claims that the tax isn't 800%, that it's 100 and whatever, 94%. So yeah, it's a production cost of a pack of cigarettes is 75 cents. We're being charged $7.50 for a name brand pack of cigarettes. It's obviously 1,000% tax, but go ahead, pretend.
Road. It's invalid. It's not the way government should work. Don't they understand that that means any majority can do this? That means they can start putting fucking goddamn Stars of David on Jews again. And you stupid fuck. That's the...
Gary, I find it really odd that you're talking about the Stars of David on Jews thing when you deny...
You're saying I deny the Holocaust. Now, in my videos about the Holocaust, I talk about the first step. The first step of the Holocaust was putting the Star of David on the Jews. It was on segregating Jews for separate treatment. That was how the Holocaust started. Was first you identify the enemy, you segregate them, you treat them differently, and as soon as you do that, that's when it all degrades, because it's now separate and equal, and then it's separate and forgotten. And that's how you create the evil. And it's the principle you violated right at the start that's the important principle. Okay? Is that they're somehow a a class of human that you can treat differently. A liberty you can treat differently. Because you're the majority and they're a minority. Period.
The Holocaust and don't even think it, really happened.
So here's his lie. So he's going to lie, you pedophile, you motherfucking pedophile. You're a fucking pedophile. No doubt about it. You're a fucking kid dick sucker. All they got to do is go look a little bit. Scratch your life just a tiny bit, feds. Come on, go get that guy. He's a pedophile.
So why did you even bring that up? I mean, you're a Holocaust denier, so fuck.
Yeah, right. That's your accusation. It should be a slanderous accusation, right? I mean, it should be something you're just really not allowed to go there. Okay, but go ahead. Go ahead, play your game.
You care about that. And again, you're really going to compare a fucking cigarette tax to what the ghettoization of Jews is not.
Well, I'm comparing the violation of principle, and that's what's important. I made the argument right before this. I was talking about the principle, and if you're not going to be obedient to the principle, you will have nothing. That's the argument I'm making. You don't get the argument? Well, then I'm sorry, you're stupid. But that is the whole argument. Once you violate constitutional principles, once you fucking throw the 14th Amendment away, okay, then it's away, it's gone. Okay, once you do it for this, in this case, then when the next case comes up in the next case, it's so much easier just to keep sliding him down that hole. So once you justify it, then yeah, you're going to get more of it. That's the way the law works. Once the backsliding, the slippery slope, these aren't concepts that people are unfamiliar with. Once you let it start rolling, it will snowball into fucking disaster. And that's my accusation against you fucking cunts. You have no principles. You have no honor. You have no integrity. You are just lying, conniving, petty, motherfucking petty files.
Where is it?
Okay, so he's looking up my reply to the judge's salvo battery argument, and this should be pretty
His
good.
reply was, quote, okay, that's my argument, I guess, for the record regarding whether or not you think I have the credibility to stipulate that the tape recording I have of our previous conversation has not been altered or in any way changed. It's 4 minutes or so long. I have it here ready to play digitally, and if it's admissible as evidence, I would like it to be part of the record. So that's what you said in reply, Gary. You didn't fucking say anything witty in there.
Yeah, so the point is I don't have to be witty, okay? I just said let me submit this tape recording as evidence of your incompetence. Let me put it into the record. You calling me, extorting me out of your court, and saying preposterously stupid things like you don't have jurisdiction over constitutional issues. So let me put that in the record. And the judge denied me that right. I requested it, and he denied me the right to put it in the record. So there you go, cunt ball. I think it's pretty witty. I think it was pretty clever to say, look, here's the evidence of you being a fucking jackass. Maybe it should be part of the record of this fucking motion for your recusal. Maybe the evidence of your stupidity and clownery and nonsense and bullshit should be fucking recorded. It should be played. Everybody should hear you saying things that a fucking high school kid in a civics class should know. Yeah, I think I win on that score again.
Why?
And this is what I said after that. I think you violated my constitutional right, and I don't think you should be hearing this case. Because I don't think judges should be calling me on the phone telling me to get the fuck out of their court. I mean, really. So this is what he's defending.
Oh, Gary, are you upset? I don't, Gary.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so that's again, more mockery of this whole idea that we should have justice. You're a friend, Matt. Fuck you. Anyway, I have to come up with some other name, and I'm quit calling him Matt, because that's just too familiar. Unedible tampon. Unedible tampon. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, this ending was a little funny.
I don't think I'm that attractive either, Gary, but it's not an argument, schnookums, and you've been roundly defeated on every fucking thing you've ever said. And I think, again, this video is proof of that. So really, Gary, all I have to ask, was it good for you? For the rest of you, I hope you have a nice day. And Gary, I really hope you're enjoying those cigarette taxes because...
Yeah, guess what? I haven't paid cigarette taxes in 3 years, idiot. Okay? Your friend Matt's paying cigarette taxes, so ask your friend Matt if he enjoys paying them.
Well, you're an addict, and I'm not.
Yeah, and go ahead and say that to Matt, too. He'd appreciate that. Yeah, just, really. Just, look, I've already made the point. Look, and then he did a whole bunch of crap about photoshopping. Like he's the one who starts the photoshopping thing, and now he decides, okay, let's do some, let's encourage some more photoshopping. That's not my argument. I'm just saying I've reluctantly done it. I've said, okay, we're going to do the argument from Photoshop. Okay, I'll play. I don't want to do it. All right, I'm clearly protesting it. I'm clearly saying I don't think this is a good idea. And you're the asshole who's encouraging it. So again, you're going to pay people to Photoshop me. Go ahead. All right, I don't care about being Photoshopped. I care about the fact that this just totally eliminates, degrades, fucks anything called rational. Okay? It's goddamn fucking stupid, you asshole. I mean, you can't figure that out? You can't figure out that the argument from Photoshop is a stupid argument? Well, of course he can't figure it out. He's scum. Scum can't think. I keep forgetting. I mean, expecting scum to fly. Still silly me.